Whew. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I am your host, Barry. It is episode 111. Chad from It's Bourbon Night is sitting down with me today. Say hello, Chad.
Hello, Chad.
Yeah, I saw that one coming from a mile
Well, you
away.
paused, so I'm like, guess he wants me to say it.
Yeah, I kind of set you up for that one.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Chad?
I'm all right.
Good. Yeah, we talked about, I don't think I've mentioned this on the main episode recently, but we have started doing pregame chats before each episode for Patreon. So for $5 and up on Patreon, you can listen to 15, 20, 25 minutes of us just kind of getting warmed up, shooting the breeze a little bit, maybe talking a little bit about what's going on in the bourbon world, and, just to get our vocal cords nice and loosened up and our brains working before. So if you want to hear some of that, and you can hear us talk about the holidays and some other little topics like, big liquor store releases, you can go and check that out. Patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. But,
Yes.
you could pause it and go sign up for Patreon and, do all that. But we got stuff to do here too. And we start out every episode with Flying Blind. Chad, I have blinded you with two samples next to each other. Have you investigated at all either of these samples yet?
Yes, they are both kind of brownish.
Are you talking about in color or in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, and smell. They both smell
They
brown.
smell brown.
Whoa, two completely different noses. One is sort of like savory and has like a cast iron skillet type of smell, and the other one is perfumey and floral, fruity. Big difference.
Any guesses, just on the nose, what the proof might be?
Proof on the nose? That's hard, man.
I'm taking your tricks or treats and I'm flipping it on its head.
Man.
I'm just kidding. You can
first
you
one.
You can try it before you do this. It's fine.
Okay. Just from the nose, I would say. What are we saying? Sample right or sample 2?
We can go A and B.
B. Okay. Sample B.
Yes.
Higher proof than sample A.
Okay.
From the nose alone.
Okay. Fair enough. But based on the taste, though, I love that cast iron skillet note that you brought out on the nose because it's definitely present on the palate.
Yeah. It's a little dry.
It is a little dry. It's not a hugely long finish, but
it's a creeping heat.
Mm-hmm.
Like my proofometer has been going up since I had this sip. I don't know. I feel like it's settling in around. Man, I don't know. 108?
108. Interesting.
Give or take. I mean, there's not many whiskeys that are 108 proof.
But you are going off of
I guess I could have said 107. At least I'd have a better shot at.
You're going with your
it.
10 points below, 10 points above scale.
Well, really, it should be 5. 5 either way.
Sample 2 actually has, interestingly enough, and I every time that I say earthy, I think back to Fred Minnick saying, well, what kind of earthy? And this is kind of an earthy mushroom flavor to me.
There's a little fungus there.
Yeah. It's really, I like both of these a lot. I think they both have their merits.
B could be a higher rye or maybe even a rye.
Sure.
The nose, man, did this sample come from someone else? Did someone give you this sample?
No. I brought this over in a sample bottle so I could truly blind you.
Okay.
I own both of these bottles.
Okay. Because I was going to ask, sample B, did someone who just put on perfume handle the bottle?
No.
Because I've never, this is walking through a department store fragrant.
I don't know if I'm getting it that strong.
Wow. Do it with your mouth closed.
Oh, okay, there it is.
Yeah, it's like a perfume.
Wow. Huh. That's so interesting.
Yeah, that's one for the books.
Well, do you want to know what these are? Or do you have any other guesses before we
I kind of
get
forgot
to
to think about the proof on this one.
it? Proof and distillery and age as well.
Just all the things.
All the things. Chad?
Well, now after tasting it, I think sample B is lower proof than A.
Okay.
I think it might be around 100. I do think it's a high rye. I don't know. I don't know. It's got a creeping front of the tongue kind of heat now. Might be north of 100. I don't know age. I would say maybe A might be younger.
Okay.
Oh, there's some nuttiness on A now that I wasn't getting before.
I see that as well. A little lemon zest.
A little lemon zest and nutty,
Zesty.
especially on the finish.
Yeah.
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 I just want to know.
All right. So, these are from the same distillery.
Okay.
These are both 7-year-old products.
Oh.
Sample A
Yeah.
is the Heaven Hill 7-year bottled and bond.
Oh.
Sample B is the Virgin Bourbon 7-year 101.
Oh. Wow. Okay.
So I had just kind of, as I was getting the show together, I was, yeah, and so, okay, let me back up a little bit. The Virgin Bourbon was sent to me by Joseph Brazo, whose sister lives in North Carolina, and I'd always been wanting to find a bottle of it, and he said, well, I'll just get you one, and I was like, okay. And I had just gotten the Heaven Hill bottle and bond as well from our buddy Clifton all the way out in California. Apparently everything's coming to me from the West Coast now,
Yeah.
bourbon-wise. And I thought it would be an interesting kind of comparison between the two because they are both 7 years, same distillery.
Mm-hmm.
And even just, one proof point different, you would think that, maybe it wouldn't be that wildly different, but they are significantly different products.
So 100 and 101.
Yes.
So that was eight points off. Not
We'll give it to you.
Yeah. Not within 5 like I wanted to be.
But so we're also comparing, I believe, so the Heaven Hill bottle and bond is $40, and the Virgin Bourbon's I think like 20, 25. So would you say that the extra price warrants? Well, is it warranted? I guess. I'm real good with words today.
Words are good.
They are just rolling off the tongue.
No. I mean, I can taste differences between them. I think the bottled bond is nuttier. It's richer, it's oakier. A little bit more full-bodied. But we're talking about $20 difference. We're talking about double. Does it taste twice as good? No, I don't think so.
I'm not sure I think so either. But I still think that it's... I stand by what I've been saying, that you can tell that a lot more craft has gone into the new Heaven Hill bottle and bond. And I don't know... I legitimately do not know a lot about the Virgin Bourbon. I mean, all I really know is that it's a Heaven Hill 101 proof bourbon that's not available in Kentucky. So, be that as it may, I just legitimately do not know much about it. So,
yeah.
I blended them together, though.
Oh, yeah. Now, what
I'm gonna
about...
let that sit.
What about this?
Okay.
Now, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that the Rebel Yell 100 is also Heaven Hill.
Ooh.
It's 100 proof.
Yeah, but it's also a weeder.
It's a weeder, but it doesn't drink like a weeder for some odd reason. And it's $20.
That's fair.
Pretty sure. Now, again, not 100% sure that it is still made by Heaven Hill. Luxro is making their own product, but I don't know if it's of age.
Sure.
But that would be interesting.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then-
I
and
should have
Then you
included
got
that.
it's I don't know. I feel like if they are making it, it's contract distilled. It's not just a larceny upped 8 proof points to 100
Sure.
because it's about $2 less than larceny. And if they're the middleman, then that doesn't make sense.
No.
I don't know.
Not at all.
More research needed.
More research needed, indeed.
Wild speculation.
So that was Flying Blind.
Kill.
I thought that was a fun little one for us to do. A couple of quick things up top. Our Movember charity campaign has ended as we got into 2020. Thank you all so much for for being a part of that, and thank you to everybody who donated and made it so successful. I thought that was really cool. That in our first year, we not only hit our goal, but we exceeded it, and then hit our secondary goal.
Hit it again.
Which was awesome. So
when I hit it.
so thank you all so much for doing that. One more thing, if you have not yet given the show a 5-star rate and review on your iTunes podcast app, please go ahead and do that. It is super easy. It is right in app. It is a great way for other people to find the show if they have not done so yet. And of course, you can always tell your friends about the show. If they love podcasts, if they love bourbon, this is a great way for you to bring them into the fold. So that's it. Shall we talk about a bit of news, Chad?
We should. Firstly, though,
Yes?
what do you think about combining them? Because I just combined.
I haven't tried it yet.
Oh, okay.
You go ahead and what do you think about it?
It's pretty good. It's kind of taking the best parts of both and putting them together.
Actually, that's really good.
Yeah. I think
Oh,
maybe they
man.
should just 50-50 them and make a new label.
Heaven, Virgin Heaven?
Virgins in Heaven.
Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey.
Yeah,
100.5 proof. No, that's good, man.
it is.
I'm a fan of that.
I think I almost like this better than either one of the sum is greater than the parts.
Yeah. Yes.
That's how that saying goes.
Okay, good. Yeah, we're in agreement. So there've been a few things that came across the table with the TTB
The news desk.
over the past couple of weeks. Yes, the news desk. First off, have you heard about all the new benchmark products that are apparently coming to market from Buffalo Trace?
I mean, I saw one of them. I can't remember what it was. I think maybe like 100 proof or something.
There's a single barrel. There's a full proof. I do believe that there is. There might even be a bottle and bond
That might
coming
be
out
one
of
that I
there
saw.
too. I don't know any easier way to say this. Has Buffalo Trace lost their mind?
They lost their damn mind. Maybe.
Oh, okay. Here's the full gamut of it. Sorry to cut you off there, Chad. I'm gonna let you finish.
I was umming.
but sorry.
That's okay.
There is a small batch at 90 proof. There is a top floor at 86 proof. I roll my eyes as well.
Yeah, the people can't tell that I'm rolling my eyes.
I think they might have been able to hear it.
Yeah.
There is a bonded at 100 proof, of course, a full proof at 125, and a single barrel at 95 proof. I maintain my question. Has Buffalo Trace lost their minds? Because this is also coming on the heels of announcing Weller Single Barrel,
Yeah.
which a lot of people, again, we talked about this, a lot of people are saying, well, I can't get regular Weller anyway. Why are they introducing a new product? It's just
Why
trying
are
to
they thinning the
thin
herd?
the herd. Exactly.
Well, Weller single barrel makes sense because Weller is in demand. Now, Benchmark doesn't make sense because it's not in demand.
It's not in demand right now, but it used to be pretty prestigious back in the day.
So did Old Crow.
Fair enough. So what is the difference in the marketing minds at Buffalo
think-
Trace versus Jim Beam?
I don't know. I don't know. Is this a sign of the times, of the end days? Is this the let's put out a comic and make 8 different covers of the same comic and you have to collect them all because we want more of your money? Is this that? Because I know everyone wants to do it, but not everyone can do it. Jim Beam's currently doing it with Baker's and Basil Hayden's and all this, and Buffalo Trace has been doing it with the Weller. Now they're taking their arguably worst product, and I'm a Buffalo Trace fan, and I love everything the Buffalo Trace makes, sans Benchmark.
Benchmark, I have said many a time, is the only bourbon to give me a headache immediately from drinking it.
I think there's about 3 for me, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
And another one is Makers. But you know what? I found other things in Makers, basically every other thing except 90 proof Makers.
Yeah.
I love. So maybe that'll be the story. Okay, let's look at it from a positive perspective.
Yeah, let's.
Don't like Makers. Gives me a headache. Just avoid it like the plague. But 101.
Avoid it at all costs.
Avoid it at all costs. 101 proof. I love that. The 46, the Private Selects, the cast strength, all good. Let's look at Rebel Yell. Rebel Yell 80. Not good.
No.
Rebel Yell small batch. I don't even know if they make that anymore. Not good. Rebel Yell 100. Hey, we have a winner.
Love.
So
And the 10-year single barrel.
in the oh yeah.
Yeah.
Can't even how to forget about the 10-year. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So maybe Benchmark. What proof is it even?
80.
Is it 80?
Yeah.
Ugh, jeez. So maybe Benchmark 80 will be that, redheaded stepchild, but the single barrel and the full proof and the bottled and bond and the small batch will all be good. Because I feel like you're kind of elevating it more in the realm of like an ancient age 90 proof, which is a 36 month old bourbon, but it has its charm.
Okay, let's talk about this. Do any of these excite you? Really and truly, is there anything like hearing all of these back to back? Is any of any of these products?
Well, we don't know the price yet on any of these, right?
True. Yeah, we don't.
If the full proof, if the 125 is a decent price, I would be interested in trying that. Because I think what we've discovered with Makers is we just don't like it proof down to, and I'm saying we as in Sarah and myself, we don't like it proof down to 90, but at 101, there's really something special there. So maybe the same can be said about Benchmark. Now, if they're not doing any extra aging with it, if it's still also a 36-month-old product that's at 125 proof, I don't know if that'll be such a good thing. I don't know if it'll matter if it's bottled and bond, and what have you, because at least Rebel Yell isn't age stated, which means it's at least 4 years old. So,
well, here's the thing about all these, as you were,
and Makers is like 5 years, I think, 5 or 6.
Yeah, all of these products, from what I can tell, are non-age stated. And I'm pretty sure that Benchmark, as it stands,
it's 36.
Is a 36-month-old bourbon.
Yeah.
So
maybe it went up a year, which can make a difference.
I think it can too.
In Jim Beam Choice, going from a 4 to a 5, and
Absolutely.
from 80 to 86, it was like, hey, this does make a difference.
Do you think, in this case, that maybe the small batch 90 proof will replace the 80 proof version of Benchmark?
I would shed no tears over it. I mean, if they're still selling it and making money, I don't think they will. If people still reach for that 80 proof Benchmark value pour, quote, I'm using air quotes, then I think they'll keep it on the shelf.
So I kind of see this as, I don't know if this is a sign of the end times, personally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I think that this is a really interesting way to elevate bourbon in a time when bourbon is either, we feel like bourbon has either reached its limit or it's going to plateau, right? So by doing this with a product that, as we've said, is not well regarded, by taking it and kind of, augmenting it in ways that, give it a little bit more credibility. Bottled and bond is a sign of approval. Foolproof is, something that's becoming more and more apparent with Sazerac products as kind of a sign of, we think this is a great product and we're going to push it out more.
I mean, 1792 Foolproof is by far my favorite 1792 line.
Yeah, agreed.
Or expression.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, bottled and bond, that's at least a 4 year.
Yeah.
That's the law. So at least it's
exactly
an extra year.
So I don't know. I think that this, in this case, I think this is a good thing for bourbon. I don't look at this and go, I don't know, man.
No, and it could very well be. But let's also look at if everyone starts doing this. If Four Roses takes their whatever you call it now, yellow label, brown label, all 10 recipes, and they come out with a 10 recipe 100 proof or a 10 recipe full proof, which I'd be all about.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if they start like adding more expressions, Buffalo Trace is adding more expressions, Jim Beam's adding more expressions, everyone wants to add more so they can get more money, and then you're just talking about thinning the herd.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like bourbon is a collector's hobby, and it's also not. There's people that just want to drink it.
Yeah.
There's people like us that want to drink it and collect it. There's people who drinks it a little, collects it a lot. So I'm just thinking about that aspect. You know, I use the comic book analogy a lot, but that's sort of the same because some people would just read comics.
Yeah.
Some people would read and collect. Some people would just collect. I mean, you can buy just one version of that issue and not have to collect the other 7 covers and still get the story. But with bourbon, it's like if we're increasing all these expressions and you want to try them all, then that hurts your wallet.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's interesting, but I think it's obvious. It's an obvious step for the industry. Bourbon is hotter now than ever. Let's give them more things to buy.
Yeah.
But at what cost?
At what cost? I think that there is, again, and then we'll move on. I think that there's more good things to be said about this than bad, personally. But that's just me.
We shall see.
We shall see, indeed. Speaking of Jim Beam, though, back in early 2019, they unfortunately had a fire at their distillery. And a lot of that seeped into the river and caused some environmental damage as well. They got slapped with a $700,000 fine.
Oof.
For all the fish that they killed in the Kentucky River.
But what a way to go.
This obviously is not the end of Jim Beam. They're making plenty of money otherwise.
They'll be just fine.
But is this kind of a warning to other distilleries? Do you think that, maybe you should really kind of try to keep yourselves in line a bit more and not, I know it was a kind of a freak of, wasn't it hit by lightning or something?
Yeah, I think it was some type of act of God.
But it, Castle and Key had a big spill. 1790. Well, Barton had a warehouse collapse
twice.
Do you think that they were picking on the one guy who could afford to lose that amount of money to kind of make a statement to the other distilleries and say, fix your stuff?
Possibly, but what do you do? What do you implement to keep your warehouses from getting struck by lightning?
Lightning rods, I guess.
All over the place?
I don't know. How expensive are they?
I mean, fire is the number one enemy of a distillery.
Yeah,
they put all of these things into place to prevent and control fire, and unfortunately they still happen.
Yeah.
It's not like they're like, we'd be fine. And then the government's like, no, you really need to try to prevent fires.
Yeah.
And Smokey the Bear's telling them. I think they want to prevent that as much as anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you prevent acts of God?
Act
of
of
God.
gods?
Yes, the Roman, Zeus and everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it might be the government saying, hey, get your stuff together. But at the same time, I don't know if any of the distilleries are really at fault.
Sure.
I would say warehouse collapses would be more of an issue that they could act upon to try to correct than an act of God causing a fire.
I kind of, and I'm not trying to put on the tinfoil hat or anything, but I do feel like, with everything else that happened in the past year, with all these different little tragedies that happened at different distilleries, somebody did say, we need to try to take care of it a little bit better. I mean, if I remember correctly, the spills at Castle and Key also caused a little bit of environmental damage. I think that did slip into Glens Creek
Mm-hmm.
as well. And I mean, maybe, they're going to wind up charging Castle and Key too, $500,000 or whatever it is for
Yeah,
negligence.
if it's a spill, if it's something that could have been prevented, then yeah. But acts of nature, or accidents by result of
Yeah.
act of nature, I think are almost out of control,
Mm-hmm.
out of anyone's control.
Yeah.
But yeah, acts of negligence, yeah, for sure, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that that's kind of it as far as like big news topics, except for one,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to lead us into our topic for the day as well. And unfortunately, as everybody knows, Al Young, the senior brand ambassador at
Mm-hmm.
Four Roses, did pass away on Christmas Day,
Yeah.
on Christmas morning.
Mhm.
Not a great thing to
No.
have to wake up to, no matter who you are. And of course, our um, thoughts and prayers go out to his family, his wife and kids, and everything. I mean, untimely deaths are never good. I mean, they're called untimely for a reason, but goodness gracious, especially during the holiday season. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's just it sucks, man.
Yes.
It really sucks. And reading all the tributes and everything that came out after he passed away, Fred Minnick wrote an article that said bourbon had lost its rose. And it does kind of seem like this light went out in the bourbon industry. I mean, somebody who had been there for years and years and years, who had all these stories and all this passion for it. And, you couldn't meet Al without getting excited about bourbon. That of such a huge icon
Mm-hmm.
has passed away. It's just unbelievable. But again, we send our thoughts and everything out
Yeah,
to the family.
absolutely.
Actually, as we're recording, his visitation is going on
Mm.
not 3 or 4 miles from here.
Yeah.
So, we are going to be talking about bourbon ambassadors today and kind of their importance to the world of bourbon. Not necessarily just with brand ambassadors or that kind of thing, but how do we promote bourbon both as consumers and drinkers?
Mm-hmm.
I would say. So when we say bourbon ambassador, what does that kind of mean to you?
I think it's just someone who spreads the good word. I mean, I think we're both ambassadors
Absolutely.
in our own way, and I think a lot of our listeners and viewers are ambassadors. Anyone who gets a friend into bourbon, invites them over for a bourbon night, anything like that, are ambassadors, and the industry is lucky to have them.
To me, it's somebody who, and this is kind of a more general description, I guess, but anybody who is passionate enough about something that they want to share it with other people.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of at the core of what people like Al did and do. That bourbon and the bourbon industry has made such an impact on their lives that they want to share that around.
Mm-hmm.
And also, by the way, we just poured a Four Roses Private Select OBSV pick from the
Galveston, yeah.
Yeah.
That's up around northern Kentucky.
Is that where that's from?
Neat
Okay.
neat little store. Been in there a few times, and they seem to have a good palate.
Yeah. This one, I mean, you haven't even tried this one yet.
I've just nosed it.
No.
So it's a
OBSV.
9 years 7 months.
And it's on the lower end of the proof spectrum. I think it's 106.
58.9.
So
118 and carry the 9 and the 8. So it's almost 59. 59 would make it 118. So it's 117.8.
Thank you.
Woo, math.
That's why I drink bourbon and got an art degree.
Yeah.
But I figured this was a good little tribute pour in honor of Al, of course.
Oh, that's kind of minty on the nose.
Mm-hmm. There's a little mintiness on the palate, too.
There is.
But it's also got this like mixed berry
Mm-hmm.
flavor to it as well.
Oh, you know what? I've got a Four Roses pick, the last one that we were on, and I got to stand next to Al Young as we did it.
Really?
Yeah. He was there with us, and he took us on a tour as they were, when we got the our top 3, and they were remixing them and blinding us again. Took us on a tour of the Cox Creek plant.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can't remember if I think he just sniffed them. He may have also sipped a little bit.
Sure.
But yeah, we actually got there late because we got misinformation.
Did you go to the wrong one?
Well, we were told that it was going to be at the other location
in Lawrenceburg.
And we actually asked. I'm like, "Are you sure?" Because everyone I've been on, they've been there. But I know that they're doing expansions there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Oh, well, they must have moved it."
Sure.
I'm like, "Okay." So we show up there. Yeah. Told us the wrong thing. So we got there a little bit late. So there was one spot left down at the end, but luckily that had me standing next to Al Young.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Do you still have that? Whatever that pick was?
It's right over there. I could grab it.
Should we have some as well?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right.
Not to downplay what you're bringing out, but this is a very good
It is.
Four Roses bourbon. I quite like it. No, but I think that when we think about the bourbon industry as it stands today, there is no bourbon industry without the ambassadors that went out individually in the 70s and 80s and 90s and said, we love bourbon so much that we're gonna
literally beat the bricks.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that I feel like that legacy continues not just through the people who work for distilleries, but also who spread the good news of bourbon, just by sharing bottles, just by talking about it with other people. I mean, I always say there's a new bourbon drinker born every day.
They just have to wait 21 years.
They just have to, well, yeah, but I mean, it's a metaphor, Chad.
Oh. Okay. So this pick, it was through 3 different organizations. Oh. One no longer exists, and I'm not going to name them, but they took the tag off of theirs. So for the longest time, I didn't know the recipe, the age of this, because I got it from that store that no longer exists. I was having a bourbon night with a buddy of mine, and he brought a friend from his work. And that friend brought his favorite ever Four Roses pick. And it had, I think it had He-Man. It had a He-Man sticker on it. Drinking it and like, yeah, this is really good. This is really good. And then Sarah comes home and she sees that sticker and she's like, hey, do you know we were on that pick? And I'm like, what? She said, yeah. They couldn't put that sticker on theirs because the owner of that store that's now gone wouldn't allow a cartoon character to be on a whiskey bottle. So that's why the sticker's not on there. So what it is, it's the Whiskey Bear inaugural barrel pick of 2018. It's an OESV. It's a 9-year and 3 months. I think it's also Kentucky Supply and Demand.
It's the Victory Royale, isn't it?
The name, I don't know. I just know there was a He-Man and there was a Skeletor.
That's a Knob Creek pick. The He-Man and Skeletor is Knob Creek.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I had a lot that night. Those were the Knob Creek picks. But the story about the Four Roses pick is still accurate. It just didn't have that sticker. But they wanted to put a sticker on it that had a cartoon character. It just obviously wasn't He-Man or Skeletor.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't allow it.
Yeah. So yes.
Yes.
The answer is yes. This is the Victory Royale pick.
Okay, Victory Royale.
I've not had this yet.
Okay.
And I'm a member of KSD, and we did an episode with Kentucky Spine Band way back.
I took a picture of it because I'm like, I gotta have this so I can know what. Yeah. So again, OESV 9-year, 3-month. Yeah.
Oh man.
So this was the last pick we ever did at Four Roses with Al Young.
That was, almost a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
At this, probably just about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it says 8/3/2018. Or sorry, 8/01/2018.
Gotcha. So I had the good fortune to get to spend a day with Al doing a kind of a training seminar on Four Roses products.
Mm-hmm.
And he led the entire thing, walked us through the history of it, and just went through the same tasting that they do at the end of Four Roses tours, or when you go and do the taste of history there at the distillery. And just hearing him again just describe everything that goes into the process behind making their product, and not just the passion for bourbon, but the passion for Four Roses too.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, even just their regular brown label, I just overlooked. But seeing how excited somebody was about it, and don't get me wrong, I think the brown label is still good.
Yeah,
It's not out of this world.
I wish it
amazing,
wasn't
but
80 proof. I think that's what kills it.
Sure.
Is just the 80 proofness of it. But you got to look at Small Batch Select, which is 6 of the 10 recipes at 100 and what is it?
106.
106 proof. Thank you.
Right? No. Maybe it's 104.
103, 104, 103, 104, 106, 105, 102, 101, 99, 132.
Pause for dramatic effect.
I think it's
104.
104. Okay. Yeah. 6 years, 104 proof.
There we go.
Or 6 years. 6 of the 10. Oh, man. I'm all over the place.
Wee-wee.
Non-chill filtered.
Holy moly, this is a great bourbon, by the way.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's 6 of the 10. You think, put all 10 in there. I can only imagine. Like, I would love for there to be an all 10 barrel proof. And you can kind of do that yourself if you can get all 10 recipes in a single barrel, but.
Chad, I'm guessing that you haven't listened to the episode that came out this week, have you?
No, I haven't.
Well, it's been a week, and I'm not spoiling anything for anybody, I guess, if you've already listened to it. But Four Roses Small Batch Select was my number one bourbon of 2019.
Oh, was it?
It was.
Nice. I think we put it in there. I can't remember. Did it come out in 2019?
2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's in our blind samples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I go back and listen to my comments about it from last week's episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's I just the big thing that I took away from it was that throughout the year when I thought about bourbon, I couldn't stop thinking about this product. This was the one that always stuck out for me. Always enjoyed pouring it, sharing it with other people too. And it was pretty cool getting to sit down with Brent Elliott and listen to him talk about it as well.
Yes.
But they're just this was a home run for me. The Small Batch Select was.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, go back and listen to last week's episode. Not just you, the other people who haven't listened to it yet.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I was listening. I've discovered Life is Short with Justin Long, so I've been listening to.
It's a great
yeah.
name.
I've been listening to those episodes. Maybe I should have saved that for tips and bits.
You can still bring it up.
Okay, cool.
We got time.
Good.
We got time. There's another side to the bourbon ambassadorship that I want to talk about too. And it's I want to be nice with this, or try to be nice with this,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the non-discretionary kind of no prize title of the Maker's Mark ambassadors.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Like, it's I signed up for the whole deal. There's that barrel that's aging in one of their warehouses. It's got a plaque with my name on it and
Yeah.
everything, and the whole like, you know, the whole grandness of it, I guess, is cool. But does it dilute Bourbon Works? Does it dilute what other people are doing?
Well, I think they should call it honorary ambassador. Like, you're an honorary junior deputy, or you're an honorary,
Like when you go on a plane and the pilot gives you the kids the little
wings.
wing.
You're an honorary pilot.
Yeah.
But you can't fly the plane. But there are going to be Maker's Mark ambassadors out there that are spreading the good word, spreading the gospel. And there's others that don't do it at all. So I see what you're meaning. Yeah, it kind of dilutes the the meaning of it. I when I was first getting into videography, I had to follow around this group of, I think they were all college students, but they were from all over the world.
Okay.
And some type of program. These are all really smart kids. Right?
Sure.
And they were in Lexington, and they went to the Henry Clay Estate to tour it, and I think the governor was there and talked to him and stuff. And I was following around filming them. And at one point, he was talking to them, he was addressing them, and he said, "I'm going to make all of you Kentucky colonels." And they were all like, "Oh, that's so cool!" They all got a certificate and this and that. And I haven't said it very often, but I have said it on probably on live or maybe on a podcast or something, that I strive to be a Kentucky colonel one day. But I want to earn it.
Yeah, right.
I want to do things that people feel like have made me worthy to have the title of a Kentucky colonel. And all these kids just, you showed up.
And you got it.
Obviously, they worked hard. They earned whatever spot was in this program that I can't remember at all. But the fact that they came to Kentucky, you're a Kentucky colonel. It's like, okay, cool, well, sure, fine.
So they weren't even from Kentucky?
No, I think one of the kids was from Kentucky. All the others were from over the U.S. or from all over the world. So it's like, okay, yeah.
I mean, it's still kind of cool.
It's like getting the key of the city. It's like you're getting the key of the city. You're a Maker's Mark brand ambassador. It's like, yeah, okay, but does this really open anything?
Yeah. I mean, I guess you do get free tours at Maker's Mark.
Yeah.
But I mean, what do you get with the key to the city? Free tours of the city hall?
City hall, yeah.
You get to make one law.
Executive washroom. You can open that with that big key.
It's just a regular toilet, kids.
It's just a regular toilet.
I don't know what to tell you.
Doesn't even have a bidet.
Oh, there's life goals right there.
Bidet?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I would do that. It just, the fact of where the water's coming from, it's like I don't know. It's weird. It's
I didn't realize you had such strong feelings on bidets.
Oh, I've thought about it before. It's like, would you put your butt on a public water fountain? Real talk.
Anyway, bourbon ambassadors.
Oh, he's dodging my question.
I don't know if I have an answer to that question just yet, Chad. So let's that
Well,
one.
you think on it.
I will think on it, and as we're thinking on it, I think we should probably talk a little bit more about being an ambassador for bourbon.
Yes.
So, but I think that people don't realize too, and I want to go back to a previous point that I brought up, what everything went on. That's not the way to say that. Everything that went on.
Start over.
Everything that went on behind the scenes in the 70s and 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And I've said it before, but just the fact that each of these master distillers at that time, Jimmy Russell, Booker No,
Yeah.
went out independently to fight for something that they loved.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically wound up working,
Yeah.
And I think that's, we can get a little meta here, I guess. It's important to fight for something that you love and fight for things that mean a lot to you,
Mm-hmm.
or things that you see have had a positive impact on the world around you. And it's so easy to dismiss spirits or alcohol in general as being just something that, they're just drinking to get drunk,
Yeah.
or there's, no sense of community behind it, or whatever. But the community is the big part that makes me love bourbon so much. I mean, it's non-political. It doesn't, distinguish race. It doesn't, keep you from going to a certain location because you don't believe in certain things. I mean, it just is all inclusive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, being a musician too, I mean, that kind of led me down that path of having that mindset and everything, because music is so universal.
Yeah.
But there's so much to be said about the ambassadorship of just bringing out a bottle that has memories, smacking it down on the table and going, I want you to understand me.
Yeah, here's a
through
story
this.
behind it. Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it doesn't, being an ambassador doesn't have to be an official title. And I think that's, I may be contradicting myself a little bit by talking about the, being a Maker's Mark ambassador. But the way that we conduct ourselves in regards to bourbon and in the company of others while drinking bourbon is a reflection upon what bourbon means to us.
Mm-hmm. I think, bourbon itself is meant to be shared.
Yeah.
And what do you do while you're drinking? You don't sit there in silence and drink.
No.
You talk and you share.
And it might make you talk more than you normally do, too.
For sure. The filter comes off.
Woo.
The stories come out. So you share a pour, you share a story, you share an experience. And life is but a collection of experiences. So, bourbon, the water of whiskey, the water of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it itself just begs to be shared.
Yeah.
Not just in consumption wise, but in experience wise and story wise and experience wise. And that's why I think it's so easy if you have it if you have that, now the words are escaping me.
Yeah, I know.
If you have that inclination to champion its cause, it's so easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I think being an ambassador, you kind of just grow into it. I don't think it needs to be
you don't
something
wake
that
up
you
one
sign up for.
Yeah, you don't wake up one morning and go, dadgummit, I'm gonna
or send $24.95 to this PO box.
True.
It just kind of, you grow into it, or it grows into you, however you want to see it.
So here's an interesting look at it. We talked a little bit on the pregame chats about the difference between people who buy to drink and those who buy to collect.
And those who buy to sell.
And those who buy to sell. Yes.
Yeah.
What does that say about the bourbon community? How does that represent us as a community as a whole?
Well, I think it's a personality trait. Myself, I have a collective personality, or I have a personality of a collector, I should say.
There you go.
I've collected comics, I've collected coins, I've collected stamps, I've collected
Have you
matchbook
really?
covers. Yeah. I've collected, memorabilia, Star Wars action figures.
Yeah.
And bourbon. I drink bourbon, I collect bourbon. So I think it just reflects on your personality. Now, there might be someone who has never collected anything. They get into bourbon and they find themselves collecting it. I guess they were just waiting for the right thing to come across, their doorstep. What was the question? What does it mean?
How does those who collect, who buy to collect or buy to sell,
Mhm.
reflect upon the bourbon community in terms of ambassadorship?
Well, buying to sell, I think buying to trade is different. It's more forgivable because you are, you know, this country was built on trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of the same thing. I have this, you want it. You have that, I want it.
Mm-hmm.
We trade. Not that bad in my book at all.
No, I don't think so either.
To sell, now you could do the argument of, well, if someone's doing it to feed their family, well, like, yeah, okay, but obviously you have another skill that you could utilize. You don't have to, besides the fact that it's illegal unless you have a liquor license. Generally speaking, buying to sell, I think it hurts
I think so too.
to a degree. Now, there's some people who have the income, who don't mind to pay secondary prices, but don't have the means to wait in line or to hunt, and their store never has it. So how else are they ever going to get it unless they buy it from someone, no matter what they're charging? Do I want to deny that person from having that bottle? So let's say they're going to spend 4 times what it retails for, but they're going to drink it.
Sure.
I find that hard to look down on them for that.
Yeah.
But the person who sold it to them, they are facilitating that person's need. But I don't know. I think it all comes down to just their state of mind. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I can flip that in 15 minutes and make $400. I'm going to wait in line for it. And then the person right behind them, where it gets cut off and they get the last bottle, they don't get it. And all they were going to do was take it home, crack it, and drink it.
Yeah.
And share it. So it's a seesaw of.
So I
things.
think about too. How does that invite? What does that say for people who are looking to get into bourbon? Right? Is it invitational? Is it exclusionary? Does it just mark bourbon as being the rich man's game?
Yeah.
Right? And let's talk about Pappy Van Winkle, because it is the easy example in this case.
Well, I think it's our job, and I'm speaking specifically to you and myself and Sarah, who's not here, but Sarah.
Where is Sarah, by the way?
Oh, she got off work, and then I think she was going to the gym.
Oh, okay.
So she'll probably be about another 45 minutes.
Fair enough.
To be ambassadors to those people that might think they can't get into bourbon, either because they don't understand it, or it's a rich person's game, or it's a person with disposable time that can wait or hunt or so forth. It's our job as ambassadors to inform them that, hey, there's some awesome everyday whiskeys out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let us introduce those to you. Ones that you can easily find. You can walk into just about any store and find them on the shelf for a reasonable price.
It's the beauty of Turkey 101.
Yeah. Among others.
Yeah.
You want to spend a little bit more, but it's something that you can pretty much walk into any respectable liquor store and find. How about Booker's, So I think that's our responsibility as ambassadors.
Yeah.
To tell that story, among others.
Yeah.
To keep, because I do think that is something that a lot of people get stuck on. Like, oh, well, I don't know the first thing. Like, I hear these people talking about they smell, this and that, and floral and everything, and I just don't understand it, and this isn't for me. I can't get it. It's like, well, you don't have to do that.
One of my favorite things too recently has been people who, if it comes up in conversation, I'm like, oh, I have a bourbon podcast, and they go, oh, so you must, really be into bourbon and know stuff about bourbon. I'm like, yeah, sure. And they're like, well, have you had Pappy Van Winkle? Even people who are on the periphery of it,
right?
They know that there's a prestigiousness,
because news stories get written about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
I don't know exactly what my point was in bringing that up, but it just was, I hear that more and more.
Yeah,
I feel of people going, well,
What do you think
Tell,
about that,
tell me
Pappy Van
something
Winkle?
about it. Have you had it at a New Orleans?
But have you had it in a New Orleans? Yeah.
The weirdest character ever. On No, I think that's the other side of it that we have to talk about too. That bourbon isn't all about having the high dollar bottles and everything. When I look at Dusties that I want to have, more often than not, I'm going for pre-fire Heaven Hill or Turkey 101 bottles.
Mhm.
Really, just Turkey in general.
Yeah.
Because
Old Turkey.
Yeah, and yeah, there's something great to be said about new bottles. There's not. It's not like everything that's coming out now is bad. I don't mean that by any means.
Right.
But I would rather spend if I'm going for a high dollar item, I'd rather spend it on something that's not on the shelves
Right.
anymore.
And that's also the collector in you.
That is definitely the collector in me.
And also what's the word? The experience seeker in you.
The experience-driven part of
Yes.
me. Yeah.
Because that's an experience that you otherwise won't get unless you seek out a Dusty or a vintage.
I have to bring this up too. When I buy bottles that are dusty, or that if I acquire something that's harder to find, I'm not sitting there drinking it all myself.
Mm-hmm.
I love that experience of getting to be that ambassador and going, this is something you might not get to try very often. So let's sit down and have a drink of it together and
talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And bourbon is such a conduit for experiences and conversations, and that it's hard to hold on. It's hard to ignore it. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. It's hard to ignore what it can bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think the best way to be an ambassador for bourbon is just simply going, let's have a drink together and talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that, when you talk about where Al came from, I mean, he didn't know everything about Four Roses when he started working there. He learned it over time, and, it's easy to get in that mindset again of there's too much.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a lot. There's a lot of knowledge that can be acquired. There's a lot of history that can be read about. A million different bottles of bourbon that you can try and drink. But the important part of it, I think at the very least, is what do you have to bring to the table? What can you share with other people about how bourbon has impacted you and how this community has impacted you as well? I mean, this podcast, and it sounds like I'm trying to dote on you and put you up on a pedestal and everything, but this podcast doesn't really exist without seeing that there was a place for media in the bourbon community. And a lot of that came from watching It's Bourbon Night or listening to the podcast or Bourbon Pursuit or whatever it was, and just seeing that, people with a passion for something like this can create something for it and in turn elevate it to some degree. And I hope that I've elevated bourbon,
Yeah.
But I think that, the bourbon boom isn't going to end because Buffalo Trace has put out 5 new expressions of Benchmark. But I do think that we all have our job to do as bourbon drinkers to elevate it to, the standard that we all expect it to be. Now, if you want to go shoot bourbon, that's fine.
I mean, I can tell you why you shouldn't, but
as for me in my house.
Yeah, you can. You can do whatever you want.
All this to be said, Al Young will be sorely missed. And if his legacy is to be continued, we all have a torch to pick up, I think.
For sure.
Not just for Four Roses, but for bourbon as a whole.
Yeah, and I think he represented the fact that there's people out there like himself, like Freddie Johnson, who aren't the master distillers, but that are just as important
Absolutely.
to the brand.
I mean, people go to Buffalo Trace just to see Freddie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mean to cut you off if I did.
No.
Okay, good deal.
No.
Well, I'll say cheers to Al.
Cheers to Al.
And on that note, shall we review a bourbon?
Let's do it.
Let's review something.
Yeah.
How about this 1792 12-year-old
Let's do
that
that.
I picked up the other day?
Years.
Chad, you were telling me before we started recording that you had this once before.
Yeah.
What were your kind of initial reactions to it?
Well,
Good cork pop first.
I don't think my initial reactions were fair because of what I was having around it.
Sure. Yeah, well, there you go.
Because we were having some William Heaven Hill, and we were having some vintage bourbon from the 60s, and we were having the things you would bring to impress
Sure.
at a bourbon night.
Right.
So it wasn't fair, and I had it later in the evening after having all those great pours.
Well, there you go.
So this would be great to have. We've had stuff before this, but
In a controlled environment.
in a controlled environment, yes, on a closed course.
There we go. So this is the newest expression from the Barton Distillery's 1792 line. It is, of course, 12 years old. It is 96.6 proof. What do you think about the nose, Chad?
It's got a lot of spice on it. I would say that it would be higher than 100.
Oh, I definitely
If
would
I
have
didn't
thought.
didn't know the proof. Now here's something interesting that just kind of came up on the 31st/1st because I took a bottle of Michter's 10 to a New Year's Eve party, and it's what 90. I can't remember the proof. 94, 96. It's under 100.
Sure.
10 years old. Michter's, sourced. And I was saying, you know what? I think this might be my favorite under 100 proof bourbon. It's just got so much character to it. It's 90 something point something as they do. 94 4 96
94.4.
94.4.
Yeah.
I'm amazing.
Right on the money there.
Oh man. 94.4.
I kind of have to agree with you. Well,
It's so good, and we polished off that bottle. It's gone.
what about
It's gone.
Chad? What about Elijah Craig?
Elijah Craig's small.
All right,
small batch.
here's what we're gonna do.
No.
Not right now.
No, I'm saying no. It's not as good as Michter's.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It would be amazing if it was.
Sure.
Because the price difference on them,
Here's a question. When
and
was
availability.
the when was the last time that you had regular Russell's Reserve, the 10-year 90 proof?
Oh, it may have been close to a year ago.
I had it recently. I was so surprised by how good that bottle is. Honest to goodness. I mean, like we spend so much time talking about the single barrels.
That's
and-
110 proof though.
No, the regular Russell, not the Russell single barrel, the small batch 10-year-old.
Oh, right.
It's 90 proof.
90 proof. 90
Yeah.
proof. Right. Okay.
It's a really
I'm on
good
board.
bourbon.
Mhm.
Especially at like $30, $35.
Yeah.
I think that it's spectacular.
Mhm.
And I think it's something that kind of gets overlooked for, in today's market.
Yeah.
I mean, for those who are going crazy over age statements, I mean, if you want a 10-year-old bourbon for a reasonable price,
True.
at a pretty solid proof too,
Yeah.
Russell's Reserve small batches in
And
the
Russell's, Eagle Rare, both 10
pocket.
year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, both 90 proof.
Anyway, sorry.
Hmm.
Let's get back to the 1792.
Okay, back to a 12 year.
I'm getting like
Berries and
I was
oak.
about to say Captain Crunch berries.
Crunch berries, yeah. There is definitely a sweetness there, and then there is those berries.
The tannic oakiness of it is so prominent on the nose.
Yeah. I get the sweet and the berries first, and then as I keep breathing in, I get the oak.
There's not a lot in the way of like traditional bourbon notes. Like there's not a lot of caramel or oakiness.
Vanilla.
Excuse me, there is oakiness. What is wrong with me?
I don't know. Been trying to figure that out.
Aw. Is that why you let me record with you today?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
It's more of an experiment. Controlled study.
There is something.
There is a little bit of honey
I was going to say
or tea,
yes.
like a sweet honey tea
There's a light
underneath there.
peanut brittle note in there too. I have to kind of dig for it, but it's definitely present.
Yeah.
I see the tea note though. But it's very green tea.
You know the weirdest thing I just got? When I closed my eyes and took a breath, because sometimes that changes things. I don't know why. What is it called? Irish Spring.
The body wash?
The bar soap. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Irish Spring.
I can't remember the tagline for that, but I could see that. The palate hits you right up front with the oakiness too.
It kind of took it a second for it to start finishing before I got the tea first. Then I got the oak. And now I'm getting the proof is starting to build from the back of my tongue.
Back of the tongue forward.
Back
You
of the
made a
tongue
hand
forward.
motion that nobody else will
Yeah.
will see but me, but
That's why I'm in a
I'll treasure
visual-
that forever.
That's why I'm in a visual medium. So you get all those nuggets.
I heard somebody the other day say all the worst podcasts are filmed.
Wow.
So I'm never going to film the podcast now. They're like, because it's just two sweaty white dudes in baseball hats sitting around talking about their average opinions. I was like, okay, never doing that.
Well, you know, we get referred to as a podcast a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've heard people refer to you all as a podcast.
Yeah. It's like,
I'm
what?
like, I don't get it.
It's so confusing.
It's so
because
not a podcast.
For the longest time, people didn't understand what a podcast is, and apparently they still don't.
Yeah, right.
But they think they figured it out, and now they're just using podcast as like they know what it is. Like, oh yeah, you all do a podcast.
No.
Well, we do for our patrons.
Actually,
Actually.
So the berry note's kind of coming through on the palate a little bit more as I get into it, but it is still very like Captain Crunch berries.
I mean, not as much as the nose. I feel like I got more of the crunch berries on the nose.
I agree.
But yeah, it's there. And that barrel just really builds in your mouth as it settles in.
Oh. I'm starting to get like a snickerdoodle flavor on the finish.
I mean, it has a sweetness. There's no
It does.
denying that sweetness. It is there.
I think this I kind of wish that I had this in 2019. And I guess I did. I bought it on New Year's Eve.
Oh, did
but
you?
I of course bought it after I had done my best of 2019
right.
because I feel like it at least would have made my honorable mentions.
I will say this: I'm liking it a lot better than I had it when I first had it.
Yeah.
It was also a neck pour, and this looks like you have about a fourth of it drunk. So drink. So maybe it's just opened up, and that helps it.
I think it has. I mean, because when I first had it, it was overly tannic. I mean, just way, way, way over the top, barrel heavy, tannic char. Like, you just couldn't taste anything other than that. And now it seems like the barrel aspect of it is really commingling nicely. Nice. I don't know. Whatever. This should also be called, "This is me trying to figure out the dictionary."
Yeah. Words.
It's commingling with everything else on the flavor profile, I think. I think that this is really quite good. What are you picking up there as you sniff like a rabbit?
Tobacco. Do a little 3-blast method.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
I totally see
Like
that.
it's
But
over
wet
there.
tobacco.
It's over there in an ashtray and it's going up into the air.
It's wet tobacco.
Wet tobacco. Huh. Okay. I don't know if I really know how to experience wet tobacco.
Well, so you've never smoked a cigar and then smelled the wet end of it that's been in your mouth?
I don't know if I have.
Well-
Is that a thing?
I mean, I've done it before. I
So
guess.
it's apparently a thing.
Apparently, yeah. Anybody else, write in, please. Let us know.
Or is just Perry a weirdo?
Maybe I am. Who's to say?
But I'm not a cigar smoker, so if I've missed that part of the experience, that wouldn't surprise me.
But I definitely do get the cigar tobacco note on
Yeah.
there, though.
And that's probably 12 years, that's when you're starting to get into the leather notes and the tobacco more prominently than, younger ones.
I think they did a really solid job with this product. Honestly, I
I wish it was they just gone straight 100 proof or above. I feel like that, but I understand it's 12 years old. You need to get more out of the barrel.
Now, I don't understand the acuteness of 96.6 proof. I don't quite get that.
Yeah.
What was it about that extra 0.3%
I
that
think
pushed it?
Whenever it's like that, you have to assume that the master distiller was tasting it at several different proofs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they were like, "Oh, this is the one," and it just happened to be 96.6 proof. I don't know. But why did 96.6 get? I mean, as an option, why wasn't it just like, let's try it at 100, let's try it at 99, let's try it at 90? I don't know. They say, why is there a lot of 86 proof bourbons? Why is there a lot of 100, 101s, 107s? It seems like there's like kind of like sweet spots of proofs. It's kind of
Right.
like agreed upon.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe 96.6 is one of them for them. I don't know. Maybe they tried it at 98.6 body temperature. That's kind of a blood oath thing.
Huh, interesting.
I'm like, nah, not quite. What about 96.6 though? Ah, there it is. I don't know.
Take away a little bit.
A little bit. There it is. I don't know. 96.6.
Well, we have a review system of never pull fleshy piercings here.
That's what
Oh,
it
wait, no.
stands for.
I'm sorry. It's nose, palate, finish, and price.
Ah.
On the show, each category is out of 5, and then we total it up for a final score of out of 20. Chad, what would you give the nose?
Oh, I don't know. I don't knows.
Great.
I mean, it's pretty solid. I'll say that we pulled a lot out of the nose, so I think it's fairly complex.
Yeah.
I have to say I am kind of missing the more typical caramel vanillas. I wish
am
that they
too.
were in there somewhere, and I think it's something that you just won't get on a lower, lower proof, sub 100. You're not getting like that spice so much, but I don't know. Oh, and actually, it's actually really good that I had Michter's 10 just recently, because on that nose, you get this, and it's a 10-year. You get the age on the nose. You get, I don't know. You just like, oh, this is an experienced bourbon, and this one's a little bit different. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I think.
I was debating between a 3 and a 3.5. I'm actually going to give it a 3.25, which I don't think I've ever done before with a
Wow.
product here.
Okay.
This one, interestingly enough, is going to be a little bit more chop and change with me. I mean, I've got some numbers floating around
Okay.
here that are going to hopefully not throw me for too much of a loop. But I gave it a 3.25. I didn't quite think that it was enough to push it into that 70% category. But, I think that it's got, as I said before, a lot of interesting things going on.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that it's got a lot of depth to it. I think that, there, and honestly, I feel like every time I've gone back to it, it's been slightly different.
Yeah.
So, and I do agree with you that I'm missing the normal bourbon notes in there, but I don't think that it's suffering from that too terribly much. So 3.25 is what I gave it on the nose. I gave it a 3.75 on the palate.
3.75.
Yes.
I'm liking the finish more than the palate. I gave the palate a 3.
So it's a stair step for me. I gave the nose a 3.25, gave the palate a 3.75, and I gave the finish a 4.
A 4.
A 4.
Okay.
Chad.
All right.
I say a 4.
A 4.
What say you?
What are we talking about?
The finish.
The finish. Oh, I gave it a 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah.
Yes. So you thought that the nose was as good as the finish, as you post a story to Instagram.
It's Patreon.
Oh, Patreon. Oh, okay. All right.
It's a lens.
Well, this is way past the point of anybody who's listening to this podcast being able to check out that lens. But you thought the nose was as good as the finish.
Yes.
I thought that the finish was better than the nose,
Mm.
which is why I gave it a 4, of course.
Okay.
The finish really is where everything kind of started to come together for me. And honestly, that's where things started to kind of grow and not necessarily explode, but kind of evolve, I guess. And even as I'm talking, I feel like I'm discovering new things with it. Like there's a watermelon note that I'm picking up on the finish as I'm talking too. It surprised. I mean, like if you had asked me like in a vacuum of 30 seconds to describe this, don't think I would have been able to give you that note.
Right.
But because I have had a little bit more time trying to dissect it, I think that's really kind of come through. So I think the finish is really quite good.
Yeah.
Quite spectacular.
The finish.
Even.
Yeah, the finish. I don't know. It does go on for a while more than you would expect a sub 100 proofer to go. I'll give it that. It might be better than the nose. I mean, I might up it to 3.75.
Okay.
It does hang around.
Is that your final answer?
It is enjoyable. Yeah, I think I am going to bump it up.
Okay.
I'm going to bump it up. Now, you need to tell me what you paid for this.
I paid for this.
Yes, you did.
I did.
Was that a question?
You're correct. No. After tax, it was like $58.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So pretty much at retail. I think retail on this was actually $50.
$50.
So, I mean...
So same as a full proof, but with a lot more age.
Yeah. I don't mind the price on this, honestly.
No.
I gave it a 3.75.
$50. $50.
In this day and age with... there aren't a whole lot of age-stated products like this
Right.
out on the market. $50 for a 12-year-old bourbon, not terrible.
I'm gonna give it 3.75 also.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow. I really do think that 1792 did something well with this product. Barton did something well with this product.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't necessarily that it hit all the marks for me, but I think that it didn't need to. I mean, because it doesn't taste like what we would call, I guess, regular bourbon or normal bourbon or kind of benchmark bourbon. Not benchmark, but yeah.
Hey now.
I don't
topic.
think that it matters necessarily. I think that by creating something unique and something that people would probably drink and go, never had anything like this before.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's to its merit. So,
Yeah, agreed. I would. Well, I was just thinking, like, what I call it my favorite expression of theirs. It's hard to put a 125 proofer up against a 96.6er
Sure.
because they both offer different things. You just get different qualities
mm-hmm.
with a higher proof bourbon. Now you're talking. Now it's the Weller 12 versus Weller 107 argument. Which one?
Sure it is.
Which one do you like better? And more often than not, I picked the 107.
Yeah. But have you had it in a New Orleans? No, I'm just kidding. Have you? So I actually had. I had Weller 12 independently recently of 107.
Uh-huh.
Still a freaking good bourbon.
Yeah, it's one of the great 90 proofers of the world. You know, we were talking about Eagle Rare. We were talking about Russell's Reserve, small batch, and Weller 12 is one of the great 90 proofers.
Yeah.
It is. Now, but I feel like more times than not, I would probably pick the 1792 full proof over this guy. But there would be times where I'd be like, no, you know what? I want that 12-year profile.
Did I say this was my favorite from? I don't.
Use your words.
Did
I
say Jello?
Excuse me. Did I say?
No, did I say that this was my favorite 1792 expression?
I don't think so.
You said something earlier that kind of made it sound like I did. Because it's not. I do still prefer the full proof.
I was talking about myself.
Oh, okay. Sorry. The way that you said it was like, you can have that opinion, but I don't know if I would have that opinion.
No.
No, I don't think that this is my favorite expression either, but I still think that this is solid.
From what I've had of and I think I've had all of their other expressions, it might be a strong second for me. I'm not too crazy about the bottle and bond. I'm not too crazy about the small batch. The sweet wheat's all right. The
People fawn over the sweet wheat.
Yeah, whatever.
I love the
they're
high
just
rye though.
buying into it. The high rye, I'll have to try again. I can't remember my opinion on it. I know I have a bottle though.
What about the 225th?
225 is all right. It's all right. It's fine.
We gave it a pretty good review when we uncorked it.
Yeah.
That was the first video we ever did together.
Yes. A single tear is running down his face, everybody.
I saw somebody, I commented on, one of those videos and that I was on, and somebody commented further down and they were like, I can't believe Perry isn't like a lifelong friends with you.
Oh.
And I replied to them and I said, if you watch these videos, it's basically a progression of my whiskey knowledge and weight gain.
Oh. Well, sometimes those two things go hand in hand.
They do indeed, and I'm working to counteract part of that. But anyway,
New Year's resolution, new year, new you.
Oh, I started whale before whale.
Whale?
I started whale before.
January before 1st. That, laddie.
Anyway, no, I overall I gave this 14.75.
Mine is a 14.
All right, I miscounted yours.
I use a calculator. So.
I trust the calculator more than I do my bourbon brain.
Yeah.
So overall, this is a recommend for me. Honestly, if you can find it.
If you can find it, yeah. $50. Not bad.
This was every now and then, you'll find a store that posts on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and they'll, say, hey, we've got these new bottles in. So there was a Lexington store that posted when they had this in Taylor Small Batch, and they had 2 bottles of the 12-year 1792, and I walked into the store, and there was a guy holding one in a bag, and I could just tell by the shape of the bottle, and I was like, oh, did you get the last of the 12-year? And he was like, no, I got the first as far as I know.
Oh.
And the guy behind the cash register was like, here you go.
Nice.
So I have a few bottles, I guess, in Lexington of this.
Yeah.
But if you can find it, go grab it, I think, or at least try it at a bar.
Yeah.
I think that it's quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that does it for the review. Let's move on to a few of our segments. This first one, which I messed up on originally, and I told you it was called bourbon rings, which is not a thing. It's actually called barrel rings.
Barrel rings.
If you would like to call into the show, you can do that at 859-428-8253. Leave us a voicemail. After next week's episode, we're going to start doing topics that you can respond to. So if we'll have a question or a thought or whatever that you can call in and leave your thoughts about.
Nice.
Good words, yes. This week's Barrel Rings comes from Steven Sussman.
Steven.
All the way up from
New York.
New York. So here's what Steven had to say.
Hey Perry, this is Steven Sussman. So my question is, who is one master distiller or anybody in the bourbon industry right now that you find to be inspirational to you currently?
So one master distiller or anybody in the industry that we find to be inspirational. I find it kind of easy to, as we've been talking about, Al Young.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I think that when I got into this community, things were already kind of in motion, and I was able to kind of slot myself into what was already happening in terms of media or entertainment or whatever you want to call it. And it's funny. I've kind of drawn a lot of inspiration from, and she's not there anymore, but Marianne Eaves at Castle and Keys, seeing somebody who took something that was kind of, I don't want to say dead or decrepit, but something that could have been tweaked a little bit, and still building upon what came before and making it their own. I find a lot of inspiration in that.
Yeah.
I feel like the podcast came out at a time where, if I hadn't done it then, it would have gotten a little bit lost. You know what I mean? Like, it was just at the right time to slot into that entertainment part of the bourbon community. So to see somebody who has worked in that realm and be able to kind of make it my own, that's kind of cool and gave me quite a bit of excitement and inspiration.
Sure. Absolutely.
So, what about you, Chad?
Well, I know Sarah were here. She would say Peggy No Stevens.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the first female master taster ever, and someone who has built her own industry, her own business. The woman's a genius. What she can do with pairings, with food pairings.
Oh yes.
She is besides that, a ball of energy and enthusiasm. Talk about a bourbon ambassador. Peggy is amazing. But I'm not going to say her only because I feel like that would be better off for Sarah to talk about. Peggy is her
officially her mentor.
Officially her mentor.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. This has just been the podcast of no words coming.
Yeah. No, it's all right.
And then much like you, bringing up Al Young, I immediately thought of Brent Elliott, who has just been completely accommodating with his time, and who is just, you talk to the guy for a minute and understand his intense enthusiasm towards bourbon and the science behind it.
Yeah.
He's a described bourbon nerd.
Yeah.
So those, I guess, are like ones that I could say.
If we're talking kind of in the media realm too, Fred Minnick.
Sure.
Absolutely. And especially if we're talking about mentors.
Yeah, completely. He's someone talking about building his own brand. He's been very successful in doing that. But I am going to go in that direction, but I'm going to pick Rex and Daniel of the Whiskey Vault because, they are, I think they might be the largest whiskey YouTube channel out there right now.
Are.
And since, I know Ralphie has, he's been at it for forever. So I haven't looked at his numbers that I can remember, but I feel like the Whiskey Vault guys are probably the biggest right now. But besides that, just what they've been able to do with their brand, with the Wizard Academy, with the Whiskey Tribe, with making the world's first ever crowdsourced whiskey distillery, and then having the Bastards Ball, now the second annual, and inviting whiskey tubers to come to it and sharing that. It's all pretty remarkable. So they're very inspirational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to touch on Fred for just a minute, too. I don't know if I've ever really talked about this on the podcast proper, but I really do have a good relationship with Fred. And I've been able to reach out to him anytime that I've had questions about what's going on in the industry, or, what should I do with this, kind of in the same vein as Sarah, having a mentor in Peggy. Fred has definitely been that for me as well. Maybe, not necessarily as, officially, but he's been a guidepost for me. And going back to Peggy, one of the coolest moments ever in my entire life will be after the first live show that we did, and her coming up to me and going, "You remind me of a young Fred Minnick."
Oh, nice.
And that just totally blew me away, that I was even in the same, in her mind, ballpark as somebody who is so prominent in this field and does so well and continues to be well regarded. I mean, like, that just, I don't have enough nice things to say to Peggy for
Sure, yeah.
even bringing me up in the same conversation as Fred, much less saying that I reminded her of.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Anyway, Fred is a huge inspiration for me. And hey, man, I hate to not talk about you guys too. I mean, no, I mean, like, it's hard for me to not say, like I said earlier, y'all were a big inspiration when the podcast was getting started. And, I did want to, kind of emulate some of that same energy. And I hope that I have. And, again, how nice is it that Lexington has this little community itself?
Yeah, totally.
To, kind of...
It's surprising.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that was Barrel Rings for this week. We have one listener question also to get through. Sorry, Chad, we keep going a little bit longer than we intended to. I'm sorry. We have one question from listener of the show, Louis Keene. He said, are nationwide stores like Total Wine good for the market, in your opinion, or just having mom and pop stores better? I am excluding state-run stores. What do you think about this?
I think it's a good thing, because let's take out the big box stores like Total Wine, and we only have mom and pops. I think prices would be higher. I think Total Wine sets a precedent, and unfortunately, it's a precedent that the it's a precedent that the mom and pops can't follow, because they can't afford to sell Wild Turkey 101 for $16.29.
Sure.
And Total Wine's making like 5 cents on a bottle. They can't afford to do that. But if that wasn't around, they might try to sell it for $27 all day.
Sure.
So it's like it's good to have a system of checks and balances. And I feel like big box stores add to that checks and balances.
I definitely agree with you. I don't know if they're necessary in the day and age of ABC stores. But, in non-ABC states, i.e. Kentucky, I can see their merit.
Sure.
But overall, it's not.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're 100% necessary. Sarah walked in.
Yeah.
Hi, Sarah. All right, let's finish up the show with tips and bits, shall we?
Yes.
What are your tips and bits this week?
I would say that that podcast I mentioned.
which was Life is Short
Life
with
is
Justin
Short
Long.
with Justin Long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
no, it's good. It's I just finished listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson interview
Nice.
that he did with him, and he's a very interesting fellow.
He is indeed.
Yeah.
I got in. This is real cool and awesome of me to talk about. Like I'm the big nerd I am, but I got a Nintendo Switch for Christmas,
Oh, cool.
and I have enjoyed it a lot. Maybe more so than
Nice.
I should have. But my favorite game to play on it so far has been Untitled Goose Game.
Oh yeah,
It's
I've actually
just-
watched a playthrough of that.
It's just ridiculously
Yeah.
fun for a game where you're just playing a goose that's going around and annoying people.
Annoying people. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, throwing that rake into the water.
Yeah. Very
High
satisfying.
point. High point of 2019 for me. All right, Chad, where can people find you if they would like to do that?
They can find us on YouTube. YouTube.com/It's Bourbonite. Patreon.com/It's Bourbonite. Instagram and Twitter @It's Bourbonite. And then whiskeyambitions.com.
You really had to think about that one.
I did.
Didn't you? Yeah. Well, I am at PRaider1492 on all social media channels. If you want to follow the show, it is at My Bourbon Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. As we said up top, you can give us a 5-star rate and review on iTunes right in app if you would like to do that. It really does help new people find the show. You can also share it around with your friends just by telling them about it. You can find all of our apparel and merchandise at bourbonshop.threadless.com. If you have not joined our Facebook group yet, you can head to facebook.com and search for This Is My Bourbon Group. Just a couple of questions for you to join. Let's see. What else? I know there's something. Barrel Rings, you can give us a call at 859-428-8253. As I said, we will, after the next week, have a question for you guys to respond to, so be on the lookout for that. And then last but not least, Bourbon Shop. Nope, that's not it at all. It's actually patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast where you can become a patron of the show for as little as $1 a month. At $5, though, you get the bonus episodes that come out once a month. You also get the pregame chats that are coming out every week before each episode. You also get some live streams and bonus content. Otherwise, I can't think of it all right now. I'm trying to really get through this so we can get out of here and you guys can eat dinner. Thank you all so much for listening to this week's episode. I will see you all next week. Chad, thank you for sitting down with me.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. Until next week, I'm Perry, and this is My Bourbon Podcast.